So when I was living in the webcam house, doing all sorts of experimental things about trying to live out loud and live vibrantly and live a transparent life. Now with Facebook, people kind of think, it's so normal to share every detail of your life. But there was a time when that was considered crazy and narcissistic, and that was me. And so while I was in the webcam house, we started a number of things, one of which was Globalgasm, which was trying to have people all over the world having sex at the same time, or masturbating at the same time, to try to create this kind of surge in positive energy. And there was much of media attention to that. There was actually an MTV documentary about it, and there was interest from a local reporter who wanted to do a story about it. And so he contacted me, and I spoke with this reporter for a long time about all sorts of different projects I was doing and artistic things that I was doing. And it's interesting because from the outside you can take a snapshot of things that I've done in my life, and it can look, you could judge it in a certain way. You could take a snapshot of a certain videos that I've been a part of and go, porn. But if you would give me 20 minutes to talk about it, I would be very proud. And I think that I did it with integrity, and I did it as a trying to pursue love and to push love into the world. One of those was after the Katrina experience, after the Katrina nightmare, we did a special Globalgasm where I had adult stars from all over the country participate in this Globalgasm and film themselves. And then they had them send me the videotapes, and I made like a video project. It was called Pink Aid, and I made a video kind of trying to capture the energy of this night and what we were trying to raise money as well as energy towards the healing of this part of our country that was hurting. And so we made a DVD and we sold it for money, and we learned that Habitat for Humanity would not take our money because they're a Christian-based organization, and apparently Christians don't have sex. Or at least they don't take money from people who make money from having sex or something. I don't know. But we did hook up at the time with Burners Without Borders. They had just gotten started, and they were helping down in Katrina on the floor, living in the mud, and they said, heck yeah, we'll take the money. So we sold, and so it was, and the cool thing too is that it was very important to me that everybody involved, all of the starlets, everybody donated their experiences. So there was no, I didn't want anything to confuse this as being like traditional porn. It was sexuality being shared, and the product was one of positivity and love and upliftment. Upliftment, I like that word. And so that was another thing that I was talking about in this interview. And after speaking with the reporter for about 3 hours, he started asking me some questions about what my parents thought and all this stuff. And I was, I basically said the truth, which is that my parents recognized when I got to a certain point and I was a grown-up and an adult, and they recognized that at that point they were advisors and they really could not control what I did. And so, but they did believe that I had good values. And so while they did not agree with my choices in many ways, they did respect who I was, and they continued to love me. And so he kept pushing and wanted to talk to my parents. And I said, I don't think they'd be up for that, but I'll ask him. And then it became clear that he knew who my father was. And it became clear that this article he was writing was not about me at all, but he was trying to embarrass or mudsling and make my dad look bad. That became clear to me as he was asking me these questions, and I realized that I had stepped into this trap, and in doing so, really let my family down. And so, I of course, my parents knew everything that I was doing, but I had to let them know that not only am I doing these things, but I just basically blurted it out to a reporter who's trying to make the connection. Local judge has pornographer son. I think that was the angle that he was going for. And so I ended up. My parents were upset. They were very upset, and it was a big reminder that the things that I do in my life have consequences beyond me. Up until that point, I was very much of the mind that I did everything that I've ever done under my real name. Everything. And part of that was because I consider myself a lifestyle artist, and the way I live my life is my art, and the choices I make and the things, I'm willing to take the consequences of that. And so if you're going to judge me, imprison me for these statements of love, sex positivity, or whatever they are, then I will face those consequences. But all of a sudden, now the equation was changed. They weren't trying to hurt me, they're trying to hurt my family. And that was about the same time that my nephew was born. And it was this big kind of like, oh my gosh, the game is different, I mean, it's one thing to say, yeah, like this happens in movies all the time, the hero's like, I'll never tell, and then they bring out their loved one and say, well, what if we cut her? And they go, okay, and that's what happened to me. I was like, okay, new plan. I'm going to be more family friendly. Luckily, my world shifted, and that's about when I became very much spending a lot of time with my grandfather, and so HugNation and Grandpa became really the focus of my artistic explorations at that time, and but it was a straining time in my life, as well as a challenge for my family to be accepting, while also wishing that they didn't have to deal with the shit that I caused. We made it through though, and that's why now when I've been doing some more traditionally good things. I've been doing more charity and more philanthropy things, and so as my mom gets praised for the things that I'm doing, it's like so well earned, because she sucked it up and she stood behind me and loved me through these things that would really test any parent. And so for her now to be able to get pats on the back and feel proud and be able to publicly say it at a dinner party what her son is doing, it just feels awesome, and it feels awesome to see her proud too. And I try as much as possible to give her the credit, because I'm so grateful.